diagonals. You'll notice with the diagonal, this will be two separate cuts, okay? So we'll start with doing our horizontals. Now to save time, I'm not going to go all the way across. I want to focus on this one area here to show you how to do a horizontal and then how to do diagonals. So for this one area here, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so that we can see how to properly mark and cut a diagonal. Actually, I changed my mind. We're going to do this side right here, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is continue by doing my horizontal line next. And as you do the horizontal lines, lay it on your marker line. That would be the red line that goes across here. And make a parallel line, parallel to the edge it's going to connect to. Take your scissors, line up the top of the scissors, the blade of the scissors with your marker line, cut straight down toward the table, and we're going to glue this piece in place. Now, granted, as you continue on here, you will notice that these pieces are moving around a little bit on me because they're not fully dry. As you continue working with your bridge, you will find out that as you work on your verticals and your horizontals, by the time you start on one end, get to the other, the first end will already be dry. Now we're going to talk about a diagonal line, okay? We're obviously going to have to cut two separate pieces here. So the first thing you want to do is take a look at where your marker line is going to attach to the pieces of wood that are already in place. So if we follow this green line right here, you will notice it touches or connects to this edge right here. So I put a mark on that stick right there. The next thing I want to do is take my pin, follow it all the way across my green line to see which one of these two sticks is going to connect to best. If you take a look right here, you will see that this green line will attach to this stick better than it will across here. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that you understand what a parallel line is. A parallel line would be two lines that are side by side that never intersect, just like these two lines right here. They're kind of like grid lines on your graph paper. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll set one of your sticks on top of your marker line so that when it's resting on top of there, we're going to make a parallel line, a line that is parallel to the edge it's going to connect to. Alright, does everybody see how I did that? I have a line here, marked a parallel line, and now what all I have to do is take my scissors, line up the top of the blade. Once again, always line up the top of the blade with the mark that you put on there. Make that cut straight down toward the table. Turn it back around, and you'll see that I have a nice tight joint right there. The entire stick is connecting instead of the one corner of the stick. So now we have the thickness connecting, which makes a strong joint. Now if we take a look at this end, this stick, I originally marked this edge here. I just have to mark a parallel line so that this line is now parallel to the edge it's going to connect to. Again, line up the top blade of your scissors with the line that you marked on with the marker and make a cut straight down toward the table. Before I glue it in place, I want to make sure it fits. Now in this case, I have a little bit of a corner hanging over there right here. So be careful if you're doing trimming on any of your pieces, trim as you go and not too much. So you want kind of like a trial and error. If you cut it too short, then it won't fit like we want it to fit. But now as you can see, it's covering my green marker line. It's connected real tight in each corner. All I have left to do is to dip both ends in the glue and then set it back in place. Again, be generous with your glue and set it in place. And then I can move on to marking my next set. Again, to mark this, I'm going to mark across here where the green line connects. Follow this up and it will connect better to this stick than it will to this one. As you can see, the line coming right to the corner. I'm going to put this right on top of my green marker line. It really doesn't matter which end you mark first, as long as you only do one end at a time. If you mark both ends at once and cut them, you will find that your piece of wood is too short and you'll end up putting that in the scrap bag. Notice now I've marked a parallel line to the edge it has to connect to. Number one rule, keep the top blade of the scissors lined up with the marker line to make that cut. That make that cut a little more accurate every single time you do so. Now I want to make sure notice how my line, it's drawn that it goes all the way through. So before I make my next mark, I want to make sure that that stick is parallel to the original stick that I marked and cut, so that we try to match the design, which will be part of your evaluation, is how close did your final bridge match your original design. So as I'm doing this, you always want to check and make sure it fits before you do any gluing. And notice I'm getting my little scrap pieces in the way here. Keep track of those. So how close is that? We want to try to keep it as close as possible so it's forming one solid line going across just like it was drawn. As I put this back in place, I want to make sure everything lines up before I move on to my next box. So that's just how we do verticals, horizontal, and diagonal lines on your top and bottom views.